and welcome back to the Splitting Hairs podcast presented by Jackrabbit Illustrated. We are back tonight for our defensive preview. Apologies for being 2 minutes late. We had some technical difficulties. We're still in preseason mode here.
You have to hit go live twice, and I only hit the first one.
So with you tonight, we have Kyle, who's joining us fresh off of vacation from Nashville. Kyle, how are you doing?
Lovely. 2 weeks away. I'm geeked up and ready to go.
All right. And back for a second week in a row, we have Chad. Chad, how are you tonight?
Well, I guess I'm not on my A game, even though I'm with the A team.
Okay. So absolutely.
There, we got it out of the way. It's done. I'm not going to laugh anymore.
So I am coming off a week of my county fair. Swift County Fair, Swift County, Minnesota, one of the best county fairs in west central part of the state. Big 5 days of fun. So I want to know, fellas, what is your favorite fair food? Your favorite fair food?
It's a great question.
It is a
Chad,
great question.
You take her away first because we don't have as many fairs out here in the Dallas-Fort Worth urban metroplex.
I mean, if beer is food, then it's beer, right?
Correct. Fried beer.
Followed by bacon. You know, hey, true story. I once won a year's worth of bacon at the Minnesota State Fair. And
no way.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No,
I thought everybody knew that. Yeah, I wore my I Beer Bacon shirt, and they chose me. Anyway, they're like, hey, we'll send you your bacon. Do you want it in quarterly installments, or do you want it in, like, all at once? And I'm like, well, how much bacon is it? And they're like, 52 pounds. And I was like, you do realize that's not a year's worth. Right? That's like 3 or 4 months at our house. And that's all it was. It was excellent bacon, and I didn't want to complain, but I said, send it all. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I got a freezer, man. Let's go. So,
nice.
I mean, deep fried bacon, maybe?
There you go.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Terry on the funnel cake. I also love the cheese curds, because I think personally, you know, they don't quite have the cheese thing down here in Texas. They definitely have the meats. It's kind of like Arby's. They definitely have the meats here. Got brisket, got all types of steaks you want, and beef. But yeah, that's what I'm going with.
All right. For me, it's the cheese curds. Yep. Paying homage to my parents being from Wisconsin and stuff. So that's delicious. And then I love a good pork chop on a stick too. It's like one of the healthiest things at the fair. It's 8 ounces, or so of just protein and fat. So it's good stuff.
Here, I thought you were going to say the sunflower seeds.
Thanks, Chad.
You're welcome.
Pre-episode, I shared with Chad that I'm allergic to sunflower, so he's now going to probably try to poison me.
No, definitely not.
A little bit here. So, all right. So, thank you all first for all of you guys that watched the offensive preview, listened to the offensive preview last week. You guys are hungry for football too. That is very clear, and we cannot wait. We're 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks, so that feels pretty dang cool. We're jumping in on the defense here, and looking back to last season. Chad, do you have those numbers up for the team defense from last year?
I can. Just give me a second here on that.
Yeah,
I got to share my screen.
Sounds good.
Find my mouse. All right. Apparently, clicking the buttons is not my forte today. So this would be, you want the overall stats?
If we have overall defense, yep.
Yeah, let's scroll down to that. So, or do you want just the leaders? Because this is everybody.
Oops. So I was looking for like team yards, teams points. Do we have? That's on a different screen. That's okay.
Yeah, I don't have that.
No, that's okay, Chad. So no worries. So last year, Kyle, from what you recall about our defense last year, what do you remember about the defense last year? What stood out, and what were some areas maybe where they fell short, that you recognize?
I think they're a team that feeds off of big plays, particularly takeaways. That's not necessarily a hot take or anything, out of the ordinary. But, the first guy's name who popped up there was Dallas Beanum, obviously an underclassman last year, rising this year into an upperclassman role. Big shoes to fill. Don Gardner leaving on the outside. 4 picks and several in playoff games. that bodes well for him springboarding into his upperclassman campaign. Also, Cade Tervier, or we like to call him around these parts, playoff Cade, had huge plays, takeaways, sacks, picks. Picks for a defensive lineman on the chain gang. It was incredible. So I think plays like that, really big momentum shifters that can help tilt a game, especially when it's close, and even more specifically when it's against good competition and you really need a boost.
Yeah. And thank you for segueing into Cade Tervier there, because I want to start with the chain gang. I wrote in my preview, the chain gang is one of my favorite previews to write every year. I love talking to Coach Smith. Oh, Chad, perfect. So, Chad, why don't you go through some of the numbers of yards allowed, points allowed, that kind of stuff for ID.
So let's see here. Well, my screen keeps messing up here. Sorry, guys.
Sorry. Still working out the kinks, folks. Preseason.
No, you're good.
Go ahead. Go ahead without me here.
I think when you're looking at some of the games that were kind of in question or maybe shootouts, I'd like to see our point totals decreased a little bit. Now, of course, we lost Bacchus in the SIU game later in the game in kind of a pivotal moment and needed some young guys to step up. And they definitely racked up some yards, and SIU's got a great offense, so they're going to rack up yards like that. But I think when you look at our overall points allowed, we can probably shave it down a little bit. But really overall, not a bad effort, especially against some of the teams that came in that were touting pretty good offenses. Sac State being one of them, would like to see us close it late. Obviously, playoff football is playoff football. You're getting teams' best, and they did win the Big Sky. There's just a lot of ground to cover, particularly against UNI. If we're looking at some of the bumps and bruises early, SIU, UNI got way too much of what they wanted in the ground game. And then through the air, they capitalized on some good field position. Their kicker made some excellent field goals. So, I think when you're looking at it overall, I would like to see, some young guys step up. And then, leadership taken on that chain gang, replacing several key guys like Thomas Stacker and Tolu, and then, seeing what we can do as far as getting after the quarterback and really setting the tone.
Yep. So at defensive end, right, on the chain gang, you got to talk about Rhys Winkleman. That's where you got to start. He has been such a consistent performer for the past 3 seasons. I'm really happy he decided to come back for the senior year. Just a high effort player, assignment sure. He never lets contain out on his end, and he has the ability to get home to the quarterback. Really love how he gets his long arms up, batted balls. A friend of the pod, Kurt Lickis, has been clamoring for him to return to the middle linebacker position on obvious rundowns for the last couple of years. That's where he played in high school. But I don't know if we're going to see that, Kurt. Opposite him, Cade Tervier and Quentin Hicks. Not sure who's going to win out on that starting battle, but if it's based on any of the past history from Coach Smith, they're both going to see a lot of time in the rotation. What do you like about those 3, Kyle?
Kind of touched on Cade a little bit, so I'll move on to the other guys. Obviously, Rhys Winkleman is going to be huge in a leadership capacity. There's not really any situational football he hasn't seen to this point in his career. And then, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Colonel as well, but I'm sure we'll get to him. I think in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback and really denting the pocket, I'd like to see Cade really step up. Rhys step up from a pass rushing standpoint. He can rush the passer, but I would definitely tab him more as an edge setter. Definitely big in the run game, limiting yards per carry and things of that nature from the offensive backfield standpoint. And then Quentin Hicks, would like to see his sack numbers increase this year. He got a lot of good pressures, but would like to see him just finish. But I think we all know what he can do and is capable of, as we've seen throughout his time in blue and yellow.
The one thing with Quentin, I'm looking forward to him being fully healthy this year.
Correct.
His knee injury, and he had some other nicks last year too, really eliminated some of that burst that he plays with and stuff. And I really think a healthy Quentin Hicks is going to really have a big season. If you look at some of the pictures of the team, he's someone that has really noticeably visually changed. And, that's another credit to Matt Jacobs. We've talked so much about Matt Jacobs and these players transforming. Last week, Tanner Castora from Kellerland was on with us, and he said some of the players are visibly really different. So that's exciting. One player I'm excited for a little deeper in the rotation is Randy Kay. He's played his first 2 years, his freshman year, and then last year, really still learning football. Only played organized football his junior and senior year of high school. Immigrant from Africa, and really just kind of a neat story. But someone that just Coach Smith always calls him the guy you want coming off the bus first. So he's going to be a freak. And then, a number of the younger players, Kevin Brenner plays again with that tremendous effort.
Special teams killer. Yep. So looking forward to those guys getting some action. And now let's shift inside. Chad, you want to talk about some of the defensive tackles? Kick us off there. No? The Colonel? Chad. Okay.
I mean, all I'm thinking about is, the Colonel's awesome. What's there to say?
Okay.
We lose Crockett. I miss that guy. The key for me up front, because I was thinking about the whole front. Sorry. So you really threw me for a loop. I think the key is making sure that Bach doesn't have pressure on him.
Yeah.
Because he did so well last year roaming the field because those guys weren't getting to the second level. And that starts up front, specifically the position you're talking about. That's what I want to see from those guys.
Mm-hmm. We have to backtrack for 1 second, Kyle, because we forgot one of your favorite defensive ends, Caden Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Another high motor, high effort guy at defensive end. He has the ability to shift inside, though, and play the 3-tech on pass rush situations, too. What do you like so much about him?
I like his burst right off the line of scrimmage. I think he has a great get off on the ball. And then it's like one speed, whether it's one speed into his initial pass rush move or it's his transition pass rush. He does a great job of getting full extension into the offensive lineman's breastplate and really driving them like you're taught from a defensive line perspective. And then, like you said before, Matt, you got Randy Kay over there who is very green. So he doesn't know what he doesn't know, but he definitely knows how to use his frame. He's got huge extension, so he can really create separation and get into his pass rush move really quickly. So I'm very excited about all the promise that he's got behind him. Hopefully puts it to good use.
Yeah. So obviously the Colonel at defensive tackle is going to be that anchor. We know how big of a pain in the butt he is for opposing offensive linemen. His quick get off, his leverage that he plays with. These big 6'4", 6'5" guards. He just gets under them, and they don't have a chance. We've seen this now for it feels like forever that he's been wrecking backfields. But next to him, we have some questions, right? Without Crockett, without Xavier, without Stacker. Those guys played a lot of snaps next to Sanders in the past few seasons. So let's look at some candidates who may fill those shoes. So we have number 98, Ryan Van Marl from Northwest Iowa. Van Marl was someone that was really highly regarded. On signing day, I'll never forget, Iowa was trying to snipe him away to come play. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out a spot for you. He stayed committed, so that was pretty cool. Jared DePriest, 3-star recruit out of Illinois, super promising. Tore up his knee his senior year of high school in his first basketball game of his senior year. Spent a good chunk of the next year recovering, and then 2 transfers from kind of different coasts. Brian Williams from Valdosta State in Georgia, D2 power. He was a D2 All-American down there. And then Grant Conaway, who was a JUCO from California, and he was a preseason All-American last year for them, so at Orange Coast College. And if you've watched the last season of Last Chance U, you know a little bit about the California JUCO scene and how that's all separate from the rest of the JUCO football universe. So pretty interesting. Those would be the top candidates, I'd think, to kind of see some reps. Kyle, what do these young pups need to know about stepping into the middle of the defensive line there?
I think you just got to make the most of your limited reps, right? Because you're probably not going to see as much extended action as some of the upperclassmen. And then you're going to have situational opportunities, right? If you're a guy who plays the run better than you do the pass, well, then maybe, Coach Smith, he's going to throw you in there in those situations as opposed to leaning on you for an extended rep period. Because obviously, when you're talking guys 295 pounds, 265 pounds on the defensive line range, 265 to 295, that wears on you, especially when you're going up against guys like the size of, for instance, Brian Witzman or Garrett Greenfield, when you're pushing 300 bills and you're doing that constantly. So that tends to wear on you. So their endurance is going to need to be there. And whoever it is that Coach Smith rolls in is going to need to be ready to go 100% off the rip.
Couple players that I think could contribute, with injuries and stuff and potentially challenge for playing time. Otherwise, Max Balloon has shifted inside from his defensive end spot, 6'6", 245. So, when I talked to Coach Smith, he said he was actually 275 now. And so he's put on 30 pounds. So 6'6", 275. So, that's some John Ridgway size there in the middle from Illinois State. So that's impressive. Aaron Wolfkale Holstein has had a good summer, it sounds like. And then Logan Green, freshman again from Clarinda, Iowa, someone they're really, really impressed with how he's come in. Jay Seifer is going to take some time. He's going to get in the college weight room. We know he's a phenomenal athlete. He showed it all through his prep career, but he's from a 9-man school, and he played every sport that they offered. So he's got to, get some bulk on and get in the weight room a little bit, it sounds like. So,
and mastering all the things that comes with preparation at the collegiate level, I think from that position is the biggest transition, as opposed to, let's say, a Tucker Kraft who also redshirted, but from an offensive perspective, it's like, hey, run a flag route, run a corner, run a tight end choice route. It's not quite the same.
I'd really like to see us be able to keep them guys fresh. We've tried to do that in the past, and it's worked very well for us. Kyle, you kind of touched on that. And I think if we can have some of those guys, the younger guys, come in maybe a little situationally to spell the guys that are heavy hitters, then that could make a big difference.
I'm really excited for the two transfers. Brian Williams, I wrote in the preview that he's built like a brick shit house, right? And you look at these pictures of him, and he just looks like a block. One of the other things I've heard for guys built like him on the defensive line are like a trash can full of dirt, hard to move off the line of scrimmage and stuff. So you're really excited for him. Coach Smith sounded impressed with how he could actually get home to the quarterback too for a man his size. So that's kind of exciting, pairing him next to Sanders along the line. So, yeah. Any last thoughts on the chain gang, fellas?
I'm excited to see Brian Williams play as well. I want to see what that D2, powerhouse Valdosta does in terms of translating gameplay to the Missouri Valley. Because as we know, both of those are kind of cream of the crop institutions, South Dakota State, Valdosta State. So I think, there's been a lot of hype, but he seems to be one who could back it up. And we have two seasons up with him, correct?
Correct. Yep.
That's a good, obviously that's a bonus whenever you can get a transfer guy like that with that kind of experience, hopefully, a contributor right away, but also an additional season is nice.
Yeah. Yep. Well, before we move to the linebackers, we do have to thank our title sponsors. Be remiss if we forgot that. So Drake's Place and Cottonwood Coffee. I know Dallas was just at Cottonwood Coffee yesterday. He took his son to Jackrabbit football camp, the youth camp, with a bunch of his teammates. And he said that he stopped at Cottonwood to get some coffee for the ride home, some energy for the ride home. And he tagged us in it. Appreciate that. Please do that for those of you out there. It's terrific coffee. It's terrific food. Stop in at any of the Brookings locations. Order online if you're not in Brookings or not going to make it there. It really is. Jacob and his team are just phenomenal to work with, and great stuff. So.
And you can pick up Cottonwood Coffee now at select Walmart locations. So we'll have those for you too. You can now purchase at Walmart and other local stores. So that's good.
Dang, I didn't know that.
That's
cool.
big news. He just scaled it up. So shout out to Cottonwood for that.
Hey, cool. Congrats, guys. And then, Drake's Place, again, in Bowdle, South Dakota. People have been loving the food pictures. They've been leaving comments about what's actually in the food and stuff. So that's pretty cool. So we're going to get something lined up. And I don't know. We got to get up to Bowdle and experience this place because these pictures look incredible. The tailgating when they've been in Brookings, it's incredible. And just to really appreciate the support and hospitality from the Drake family. So thanks, guys. So linebackers. Kylie, you want to lead us off with linebackers here?
Absolutely. There's another one for you.
Ding, ding.
Right off the rip. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, I mean, we got to talk about Adam Bach, right? I mean, Chad touched on it earlier. When he can free flow and he's playing fast without hesitation, he's literally just a force to be reckoned with. And, that's through the air or that's, scraping and filling gaps. So I'm really excited to see what he does this junior campaign, taking another step forward. He's a tackling machine. He also returned a point after attempt for 2 at Youngstown. I mean, he had a pick 6 in the playoffs against UC Davis. The dude just was a flat out baller. And so he's continuing to take steps. And like Coach Stig says, he's a man of few words and, lets his play do the talking. That's always exciting because it creates kind of a mystique, right? And I always like seeing Tucker give him a hard time on Twitter. I think they're roommates, but it's a pretty good laugh or two in there. So I'm really excited about him. What about you, Matt? What's your take on him?
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy, when we talk, just swears he's the fastest guy in the team, and so. Really? Yeah, that he's the fastest guy. But then I talk to the corner coach and it's someone else, and I talk to the safety coach and it's one of his guys. But he said put Adam Bach on the line, and he's putting his money on Adam Bach. So that's pretty cool that he's that fast. He's running with receivers and everything. So that's finishing 11th last year in the Buchanan Award. I thought was kind of low, but that gives him motivation. When he's achieved so much in his limited time in Brookings, I'm not sure if he's it needs that external motivation, but if he does, that's sure to be one right there. And I just love watching him play. We've been so blessed. We've talked about this before. We've been blessed with this great run of linebackers at SDSU, and he's just next. So
yeah. And the cupboard is far from bare, as you can see.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
yeah, I mean, they keep replenishing, don't they, Matt? It's like one year after another. We're always like, oh man, this guy graduated. Who's going to be the next? What are we going to do? Where are we going to go get another linebacker like them? And then they just continue to recruit to reload instead of rebuild, which is really nice when it comes from a guy who played the position like Coach Rogers did. And then we'd be remiss if we didn't, touch on it. We'll get to it, I'm sure. But Jesse Bobbitt coming back as a former linebacker himself, and then contributing as the safeties coach. So a lot of rich tradition there. So if we didn't have great linebackers, there'd be a problem.
Yep. And so talking with Coach Rogers again, one of the things that he is really emphasizing from his guys is that they have to be able to run. Like if they have to be able to move, they have to be able to run. And I think that this next guy, Isaiah Stallbert, is someone that we've seen in his 2 years with the Jackrabbits that can really run. First starting out as a safety, moving up to linebacker, really has put on some weight. It looks like, you look at the pictures and he's someone that looks like a linebacker now, not a safety playing a linebacker.
And he hit like a freight train as a safety.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's done this without sacrificing, it sounds like, any of his movement skills that make him a special player. So,
which is lovely to see, because I mean, he had a couple highlights from the spring season where he was absolutely trash canning some folks. Now, I would say he does play so explosively, and he's good in space. Obviously, transitioning from a safety role, his competency and coverage is going to be high, right? So, obviously, we're bringing him in because he's more of a run fitter, and he has that physicality he can bring. Because of his explosiveness, I'd like to see him wrap up at the point of contact a little bit better. That was one of the critiques I think we'd notice if you flip on the film. Yep. But he did show he progressed as the year went on, more grab and cloth, rolling, kind of more of that rugby style after he brought his hips. So I'm excited to see what he does, even from a leadership role now. Him and Bach have the most experience, but he's got the most reps, I would say.
Yep.
So it'll be exciting for him.
Yeah. And then, after right behind him, nipping at his heels for playing time, It sure sounds like Caleb Franzel is right there, out of Grand Island, Nebraska. We saw Caleb again in the spring season. We saw him last fall when Logan was hurt. He stepped in and played really well. And just another really fluid athlete. He's still adding weight. I think he's right around 200 pounds right now. But again, smart player. Again, just really great in the passing game. So I don't know whether it's Isaiah or Caleb on the field. I'm feeling really good about that position. But then opposite them on the other side, one of my favorite players, just because he just makes plays, Graham Spalding.
Oh yeah, the law firm, as Kurt would like to call him.
Yeah, he can hit. He runs well. He's had the interceptions. He's good in the pass game. So I don't know. He's just a tough son of a gun. And Jimmy or Coach Rogers again said, he's not the biggest, not the fastest, not the strongest, but man, is he a football player. And I think that's what we really like about him is he just makes plays.
100%. And when you need him to step up in certain situations, his motor in his tank is always going to be full and he's going to be going. He's going to leave everything out on the field, which I know from a cultural standpoint, Coach Stig's always harping on last play. That's kind of how guys like Graham Spalding and even young guys who are listening to this or their parents or people in their support system, that's how you win at this level. I mean, everybody's talent level is going to be high. They were all the best on their high school squad, their prep squad. Now, how are you going to separate yourself? Well, it better be your effort, right? That's how you're going to get these reps.
Yep. A player that we got to keep an eye on as well as another transfer, Jason Freeman from Olivet Nazarene in Illinois. And he's NAIA transfer. He was a 2-time All-American there. He was a finalist for their National Defensive Player of the Year at the NAIA division. His highlight tapes are insane. He's clearly in the wrong division, clearly in the wrong conference. I'm glad he was able to graduate early and grad transfer to SDSU, where he'll have 2 years again with us. His size, he's 5'9", 200. But man, this kid can fly. His movement's exceptional. When I talked to Coach Rogers, he hadn't yet seen him with pads on, so he wasn't quite sure what they were getting for sure. But in all of the summer work that he was able to observe and in the meeting room and stuff, he said the guy can really move. So excited about him. He's a wild card right now for us.
Jim Poppin was asking which one of the linebackers are you excited to see taking the next step to play. I mean, I'm a big fan of Peyton Shafer's game. I think he's the next man up that gets up with like Graham and Adam, and in his limited minutes, not that he hasn't played a fair amount. I really liked what I've seen from him. So, to answer your question, that's my opinion, Jim.
No, that's a great point, Chad. He's a sure tackler. He's been a big contributor on special teams, particularly kickoff, which we love to see because obviously if we can pin him back deep, that just sets the entire tone for the defensive series. Another guy I'd like to enter into the fold who's also an explosive player and from South Central Minnesota, I know Dallas will like this as well, is Savion Williamson. He was out the entire year because he got injured in the Natty, and it just gives us another weapon in more depth, really, with athletes in the linebacker room. So we're excited for that return, and we're excited to see he brought an emotional spark too that I think was really lacking last year at different times, which would have been nice to see. We're going to see it this year.
And he was really coming on in that spring season too, earning a lot of playing time. He was on all the specials, and so he's one to watch. Coach Rogers was pretty high on him and just how he has worked so hard on his body and flexibility. While he was out, that was one of his limiting things was flexibility, and he said he's totally changed that now. So my player to watch, Jim, is Dayton Mcgoy, converted safety. Again, last year, started to see reps at linebacker, and Coach Rogers and I visited with him, said, I'm not going to be able to keep Dayton off the field. He just has some instincts in the passing game that are special, that are unique, and an ability to make plays. So there could be some situations where Dayton's in there. I think having an impact. So
I don't know if you guys are seeing a collective theme here, but it looks like Jimmy's just going and sniping from all different position groups, and Coach Rogers is just like everybody's a linebacker after. You just might as well list everyone at LB here.
yeah, no doubt.
Especially all our safeties. No, but Matt, that's an excellent point. I wanted to see more of him last year, and I think just there were times where it's like, well, we worked you at safety, maybe we can get you more reps in the linebacker room with the linebacking core, and I think his athletic ability is just something you can't get off the field, like you were saying. So more excitement, more depth in the room, which is what we need, both at the chain gang and then linebacking core.
Yep. And then, we're not going to go through them all, but there is a ton of young linebackers. Last spring's recruiting class, along with the sophomores from last year, is just really impressive. I'm not going to tip my hat on any of these guys, but Coach Rogers called a couple of these guys cyborgs. So and just said they're athletic freaks, and he's really excited to just see what can happen in the next year with these guys. So
love that.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to jump back into the secondary now. And Kyle, you kind of started talking about Dallas Beanum on the outside. Do you kind of want to lead our conversation on cornerbacks here?
Sure, absolutely. Before we get to Dallas, I would like to touch on probably the two guys that are gonna anchor each end over there on the corner, and it's gonna be Dyshawn Gale, more than likely. Obviously, he's a senior, and then coming back for another year is Malik Lofton. So I think that experience is going to lend itself to some positive results, I think, in the fall, particularly knowing what the offenses are throwing at them. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the valleys, a lot of shifts, trades, motions, different things like that in terms of having to know your keys and reads on the edge. But then, like you said, we do have guys vying for a lot of playing time, particularly Dallas Beanum, a Nebraska kid who showed some real promise early, kind of in some, I don't want to call it garbage time, but in some developmental time early on in the season. Big plays against Dixie State, and then turning around and making huge plays. I think when it mattered most, when we had some tired legs or some depletion, or maybe we had created such separation at that point in the UC Davis game, really turning some heads. But I would love to see what he does, taking that momentum into this year as well.
And Dallas just really looks like a natural out there. He spent most of his time in high school, again, playing wide receiver, played some cornerback too, played both ways. But it was his offensive prowess that really stood out, I think, to folks. And, I had some Nebraska folks in my DMs saying, why aren't you guys playing him or going to play him at wide receiver? What's this cornerback stuff? So that's really cool to see. Jackrabbit Nation, I did ask, why didn't we see Dallas as much against Montana State? And, as much as we wanted. And they were honest, and they said, we thought Montana State was going to run the ball more than they did. We weren't necessarily thinking that it was going to be a huge passing game. And so Dallas, still had room at that time to grow in run tackling and run support. And so that's what they were thinking at that point. So I thought that was interesting. I followed up with that and said, hey, has he gotten better in run support and run tackling, I think? And they said, yes, in the spring, that's something, his technique is what they really improved on in that. And, Coach Erickson pointed to how far Dyshawn has come in run support, a player who had never played defense before coming to SCSU. He was a high school quarterback, kind of a wildcat quarterback in Chicago. And they said, hey, if Dyshawn can become one of the best tacklers on our team, so can Dallas. So I think that's pretty awesome. So
no, and like you said, Matt, why weren't we playing him on the offensive side? Well, obviously the Nebraska faithful aren't seeing our offensive weapons that we've got that you guys already covered in the podcast with Tanner and the rest of the crew. I think that when you look at Dallas and the moves in open field, when he does get the ball in his hands from a defensive perspective, and he's snagging picks, looks very fluid. Definitely looks like he has some offensive background. But I love hearing that. Obviously, number one, when you're talking about playoff games, scheme for scheme, you never really know what the other team's going to actually unveil when the clock strikes, right? So, I mean, I did wonder where he was, but trusting the coaching staff, there had to be something they were a little apprehensive about, that they didn't want to get exploited. And so would love to see him take that next step in whatever his gaps may be. We personally didn't really get to see enough film of him to know from a comprehensive perspective what he is like in run support and things like that. So I'm excited to see him get to unveil that and showcase it. Really excited to see Dyshawn come along from a coverage perspective, but particularly from a run fit perspective too, because Colorado State last year, he was laying the wood, right? Made some big plays in other moments with his pads in the run game, or just making fits after catch too. So I'm excited to see him take a step and just overall setting the tone from a defensive perspective to really get things kicked off here.
And, with Coach Erickson too, when you look up and down this cornerback roster, I think he has a type. You kind of look at like Abe Hoskins, 6'2", Stephen Arrell, 6'2". Steven's converting from safety, so he stole another guy from safety, on top of all the guys Jimmy stole. And we saw Steven play last year, a big physical receiver. Coach Erickson's really impressed how he's growing and learning how to use that physicality and size that he has to reroute receivers. And so I'm just excited for that. Continued another step forward for him. One player, the three freshmen from last year that I am really excited about, Aiden Dotterman out of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Kyle, I remember you came back from camp last year, and I think you had seen him and like, whoa, who is this guy? Just kind of a specimen. So
tons of ball skills, tons of capability to be able to enter him into the rotation will be nice. Hopefully he gets some opportunities this year. Really highly touted out of Wisconsin, which, I mean, they're known for offensive linemen, but shoot, we'll take the best. I think he was rated the best DB in the entire state. So that's a huge get for the Jacks, especially as much as we dip into Wisconsin. So I'm excited to see what he can do to contribute.
And a player, two guys that I'm going to keep my eye on are the other two redshirt freshmen, Tim Krosky, that has world-class speed. It sure sounds like he may not be faster than Adam Bach, but he's pretty darn fast. I think we're going to see him contribute on specials this year. The first play out of his highlight package from his high school senior tape, he gets such a good jump off the edge on a field goal block that he could basically have taken the ball directly from the holder if he had wanted to. He was back there that fast. So I think either as a returner, it sounds like he has some good hands to return ability, or in, block situations. I think he has, gunner potential, that kind of stuff. So, and then Miles Taylor is another player that Coach Erickson just raved about, just as a smooth, fluid athlete, really intelligent. So I'm just excited for him. And then the incoming freshman, Jalen Lee, has played a ton of 7-on-7 down there in Missouri. Has played quarterback basically his whole life. Just gets it. He's not someone that really dabbled at other positions too much. He's not someone that didn't play football until their junior year of high school. He's been a cornerback from Pop Warner on. It sounds like he just gets it technique wise. What they're trying to do in like the playbook schematically in terms of leveraging support, how to play the run game. Coach Erickson raved about him. So I don't know if we'll see him for more than his 4 games, but I bet we'll see him for a full 4 games just to get on the field. So
you love to see that. You love when guys put pressure on the position coaches to push for playing time, because one of the best things is, and it won't really apply to our situation at State with Coach Stig being here forever, but you never want to redshirt the guys for the next coach. That's a Lou Holtz-ism there. If any of you guys don't know who Lou Holtz is, like legendary coach from Notre Dame and the University of Minnesota as well. I figured I should highlight that for people because we're getting older and the fan base is getting younger. So, but yeah, so you love to see guys push for playing time like that. I think you touched on a really important point, Matt, when you talked about the type of player Coach Erickson is trying to bring in, Coach Rogers as well, that long, lengthy defensive back. I think that lends itself to, just causing fits for wide receivers, particularly on the deep balls. If we're not going to get great safety support like we saw sporadically at times last year, as we'll get into the safeties, we can explore this more, but we really need to have guys that are just causing fits on the outside there that can run with these wide receivers as well, because they are getting taller and taller, 6'4", 6'5" type frames, particularly like the Montana State wide receiver ate us up.
Yeah. Hey, he's eating in the NFL right now.
McCutcheon's a great player. So, they're on scholarship too, but we want to come out advantage Jackrabbits. And I think the type of player they're recruiting kind of points to that.
Yeah. All right, let's slide back to the safety position that we talked about. My conversation with Coach Bobbitt was really fun. Watching him play, he plays with so much energy and passion and joy. I think that's what I remember about him, and it sure seems like he's going to come around coaching the same way. Just a ton of excitement just to be back in Brookings, part of the Jackrabbit family. And man, he's excited for his guys too. Chase Norblade and Cale Reeder are the two veterans. But really, it's kind of funny. He talked about Cale still has 3 years left of football with the Jacks if he wants them. And so that's pretty neat. Cale's 6 foot 180, Chase 6'1", 185. The big thing with Chase that he mentioned is that Chase was finally able to have his off-season surgery that he's been pushing off because of the compact seasons. Feels so much better and is much stronger. Again, the whole support crew, the medical support crew, as well as Coach Jacobs in the weight room. These guys they're all feeling strong. So I'm just really, I can't wait to see them in person. I haven't been able to make it to Brookings yet and see them. But Chase is another person that it sure sounds like is really, really doing well.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. Talking about bringing in Coach Bobbitt, right, who had some experience out on the Pacific Northwest as a GA with Washington State, and Coach Dickert, who just got elevated to, the head coach position out there. He's a former Jackrabbit coach himself, right? So, but talk about Bobbitt's playing days, his energy, his enthusiasm, like you said, just his joy. I love visiting with Bobbitt, visiting with him out here in Frisco when the Jacks were here, and he just has a sincerity about him that I think is infectious with his position group, I'm sure, and the guys he's recruiting, which is just really welcoming. And I'm sure he knows how to strike that balance between justice and mercy, and he's going to demand, a lot out of the players. So it'll be exciting to see how that translates to the field this fall, because, that's the position group I would have highlighted that has the biggest room for improvement. Griff was a hell of a safety from a run fit perspective, and it did some really nice things in pass coverage too. But I'd really like to see us, be better on deep balls, be better on eliminating the big play, or at least mitigating how often we gave up some aerial big plays. Because I think that would really allow us to take that next step at being a truly elite defense at all levels.
Mm-hmm. And I think to put it all together, I think a down-to-down consistency from that group. And I think part of that is Coach Bergstrom really liked to rotate players through. And I asked Bobbitt about that. And I said, hey, are you going to keep that heavy safety rotation? And he said, no, we're going to let the best guys play. And when they need a breather, we're going to sub at that point.
Love that.
So I think that's going to bring maybe some more consistency from snap to snap. Maybe if there was communication errors on the back end, or if it was physical errors, I don't know. But hopefully that'll improve with a little more consistency of who you're lining up next to, or who's lining up behind you, as a linebacker or cornerback too. So
yeah, and that's safety, whether or not you want to call it the Mike linebacker, middle linebacker, the safety position. You don't really rotate them with frequency. I'm not criticizing Coach at all, but I'm just saying I personally wouldn't want to rotate quarterbacks unless I'm running a short yardage Tim Tebow type situation, or something to that effect, because you want cohesiveness and continuity and getting the signals in, just like you touched on, Matt. So it'll be good to see a little change in philosophy there and see if that does impact in snap to snap.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to emphasize here, when I talked to Coach Bobbitt, positions were not decided at this point, and we got to get to these second-year players that are all in the mix as well, besides Chase and Cale. Kobe Herter from Texas, played his 5 games, so he didn't get that red shirt last year. Jackrabbit Nation will remember Kobe for some of the errors that happened in the Villanova game, but you have to look beyond that. And there was so much good that he did. His instincts, his knowledge and understanding of the game, and his athletic ability, he's going to bring a lot to the table. Again, he allowed the touchdown in Villanova. We need to move past that and not let that tarnish like what we think of Kobe Herter as a player, because I think he's going to have a great Jackrabbit career. I remember coming on the day after the Villanova game, Kyle, with you emphasizing that he is going to be a great player for us in the rest of his time in Brookings. No doubt about it.
Hits too.
Yeah.
He brings the wood. And I think the thing that helps ease, big play wounds like that is a W. So I think the W obviously helped heal that more quickly. But like Coach Stiggs says, you got to play in the present. You can't let the previous play beat you on the next one. And I don't think he's going to do that. I think he was likely thrust into, if memory serves, more playing time than the coaches probably would have liked due to injuries, due to some depth depletion. But I think that, that is going to be immense experience that he can tap into now moving forward as a springboard. I'm really pushing for playing time, potentially starting position. So, they air it out and can sling it out here in Texas. And he definitely probably has been prepped for what he's about to see. So I'm excited to see him take that next step.
Yep. Then the other guy, Matthew Durants. And so this was Bobbitt's candidate for fastest guy on the team.
Florida 6'2",
guy. 195, a big safety. I'm not sure what these are, but he said he's the fastest in the flying 20s. Is that a workout they do, Kyle? Or?
No, flying 20 is just like when you're not at a stagnant start in a 3-point where you just kind of roll into your sprint. So
he says he's the fastest flying 20s. So he actually gave a thing that he's fastest in versus some of the others that just said
that's specific. So he's probably telling the truth. You know what? I'll give you my opinion on that. He'll become a linebacker then, because Jimmy will snipe him.
Yeah, right.
Coach Rogers sees another cyborg. He's going to add him to the list.
Ryan Swoger from Arizona, converted Wildcat quarterback as well. Still learning the position overall, but really a good athlete, someone that they think has potential this year to really contribute on special teams. Tucker Large from Harrisburg, Roosevelt. Sorry. Roosevelt. And again, that Roosevelt pipeline, we talk about that all the time. Tucker is a tremendous effort player with great instincts, great football knowledge. He traveled last year multiple times. He played in his 4 games. He's undersized compared to these other guys, but still 5'11", 170. That's nothing to sneeze at the safety position. I think he's going to be a special teams monster this season, next season, and then have that opportunity to really push for some strong playing time at the safety position. The freshman, again, Jesse said, Coach Bobbitt, Jeepers, said, these guys he didn't recruit, but he is so thankful that Coach Bergstrom and the rest of the coaching staff did. He said he couldn't be walking into a better situation with these guys. 3 very talented players. Dante Johnson from Fort Collins, you may recall, Colorado State, when they went through their coaching change, dropped him. So he's going to be available. He's a Jackrabbit. Max Polishuk, he's from that Clearwater Academy International. So he's Canadian and went to Florida to play, get recruited. And then Noah Thompson from Brandon Valley. We talked about these 3 a lot in the recruiting special. All special players. I really like Noah Thompson. Just from a grittiness standpoint, he's just a Jackrabbit in my opinion. So, So there are our safeties, fellas. So 49 minutes. Not bad there.
Beautiful.
So let's get to defensive MVP. Where's that at?
You got it.
There we go. All right. Defensive MVP. This is sponsored by Shenanigans. So again, we talked about Shenanigans last week. Just a tremendous supporter of local sports, tremendous supporter of the Jackrabbits. One of the best game day atmospheres. If you do not want to watch the games alone at home or just with your family and you want to spend it high-fiving your fellow Jackrabbit, your fellow passionate fan, and enjoying some good food and some good drink, get to Shenanigans. They have tons of TVs, just a terrific atmosphere. Shenanigans retweeted our tweet about the tailgate down in Iowa, which we're going to cover some of that information here in a little bit. But again, get to Shenanigans, support them for supporting us. So, Chad, let's start with you. Defensive MVP predictions.
So this is a tough one. I have my favorite at every spot. You can go through Reese and Tervier and the Colonel and Chase Norblade, but I'm gonna go with Winkleman. He's gonna be my guy for the MVP for defense.
Nice.
I like that. I think that the low-hanging fruit is Adam Bach, right? I think we all know how good of a player he is, but I think I'm going to enter another name into the fold because I think we've gotten a significant portion of his ability, but I don't think we've gotten a full tank yet. And he could really turn the ball over, create some havoc, and do some big things this year. And that's Stallbert. I think that, his athleticism, his range that he can play with both in the pass coverage and getting after the passer in some blitzes and just some all-around things. I want to pick an outlier. I'm going to pick Stallbert.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take Adam Bach then. Thanks, guys, for
go.
just leaving that for me. So,
well, at least Dallas agrees with me. So not so bad.
No, I mean, this defense is loaded as well. I mean, it's really, I don't know, just the number of All-Americans, the number of very experienced players we have on both sides of the ball, just pretty incredible. So, yeah. No, we've already talked about Adam Bach enough. I have no other reason. So,
who is he?
Yeah. There we go. And everyone knows that I was a Rhys Winkleman guy way before most. So I'll always be in that corner too, Allison.
It's another Southern Minnesota guy, Marshall.
Yep.
Give props to them.
Awesome. All right. So I've mentioned this a little bit. Our fellow B team, Jackrabbit Illustrated Splitting Hairs podcast member, Captain Jax on Twitter, Ben. He went through. He also goes every once a year to an Iowa game, and has some knowledge on the ground down there about how it should work. And so he set up a Jackrabbit Illustrated tailgate for us, and we'll be in lot 65, and the lot opens at 6 a.m. It sounds like tailgating passes for this lot have sold out, but you can park other places and walk in. It's a 12-minute walk from the stadium. Kevin Kessler, the director of the SDSU Pride marching band, has let us know that it is a uphill walk, and 12 minutes is at a pretty good pace, I think is what he said, or it's an optimistic pace. So plan accordingly if you go tailgating. We'll have some messaging out there about how you can find the tailgate. We've invited some other folks to come along with us. But we'd love to see and meet as many of you as possible. We'll let you know an exact location the day of, but 6 a.m. I imagine Chad, you and Brendan, Ben will be out there right away. Faces painted, flags flying, beers being drank.
Hard hats or what?
Yeah, you got to get in line. I don't know. We usually do hard hats at away games. We stay away from the giant foam hat for people not to steal them.
Yeah.
Lot 65, for those that you don't know, I'm pulling it up here and I'm going to try and zoom this in, but that does not work very well. But we're going to be right over here on this grassy end down at what appears to be the south side. Ben was thinking, and we looked at the spots. I think there's 35 to 36 spots. We could easily take that over, and that's going to be our goal. So I'll be down there. I should have the new pop-up up, and we'll have some food, and it's going to be great.
Yeah. Awesome. This is cool. This is exciting. Can't wait. One exciting announcement to make tonight for Jackrabbit Illustrated is we have Jackrabbit Central back on as our an official sponsor again this year. So thanks, Jackrabbit Central. Nice. Yeah, really
place to get all your Jacks gear.
Place to get all your Jacks gear. Exactly. That's it just makes sense. Part of what's exciting about this partnership this year is they're giving us a chance to preview the clothing that may be available for theme games, or that will be available for theme games. So whether it's a blackout game or hobo day or a military appreciation, something like that, you'll get a first glimpse of it on our show. So we are excited about that and excited to be partnering again with Jackrabbit Central. So thank you again for the support. Thank you to Cottonwood. Thank you to Drake's. And thank you to Shenanigans. So we just really appreciate your trust. And to you, our listeners and followers and fans, just thank you again for giving us another year. We really appreciate it. So
Awesome.
Kyle, anything to close with?
Yeah. Just want to plug Jackrabbit Former Players Association. For those folks who are going to be traveling in early, there's going to be a get together for all Jacks faithful, not just exclusively the football players. McKnight was saying on Twitter that it's going to all from SDSU will be welcome at Tavern Blue. And I believe that's at 7 p.m. on that Friday, which would be, is that the first? No, that's the second. So it's second, 7 p.m. Tavern Blue. We'll share more through our social handles that you can see right here in the bottom above the scroll here. We'll share those details, but yeah, if you can get there, we'd love to see you guys and have some drinks and talk about the game. So,
yep. And with that, on the Tavern Blue piece, you're responsible for your food and beverage. There's not going to be anything free that way. It's just a general gathering spot where we'd love to get together with fellow Jackrabbits.
Thank you for clarifying that, Matt. I would have been on the hook for some drinks for sure. But
yeah, right.
But you never know if the liquid gets flowing, we might have some drinks on the house. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Chad, any closing thoughts from you?
Well, I think our defense is always a strong part of our game, and something we haven't talked about at all is our special teams players. Am I that far behind? Sorry.
We'll talk about special teams. Really don't worry. Yeah, we'll talk about special teams next week.
All right.
Yeah, we'll get to them.
But no, you make a good point, Chad. I think just to cap it off, if we can, and Matt, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this as well. I think historically, the best teams that we've had, we've just needed to take that one little extra step, either on the offensive side or the defensive side. And this year, there's been a ton of talk about the offense, right? So now it's the defense's turn to kind of step up and really close that gap, close that margin historically, because you look at the teams with the best defense in the nation, the Wandering Cows up there, they're the ones that lock it down pretty good. So if we can just do what we know how to do in blue and yellow, played our philosophy, played our effort, played our talent level, I think we're going to be able to do some big things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the offense is going to put up some points. The defense is really going to have to be responsible for limiting what teams do. So I'm excited for this season. I think we can do it.
Yes, sir.
All right. With that, thanks everyone for joining us tonight.
Let's go.
Yes. Go big, go blue, go Jacks.
Go Jacks.